I do believe we're just at the beginning of the $4.1 trillion of money in city globally in digital wallets.
Hey everyone, so with all the recent market chaos and this choppy action we've been seeing, some incredible opportunities are starting to pop up, and I'm getting pretty excited about what I'm seeing. Take Ondo, for example. It's back down to around 70 cents, and honestly, this could be one of those levels where you really want to pay attention. Here's why this is so interesting. When you zoom out and look at the bigger picture on Ondo's chart, our yearly lows this year hit right around 62.5 cents. And if we go even further back to 2024, we saw it touch roughly 54 cents. So where does that leave us? Well, Ondo sitting at these current levels, we're pretty darn close to what I'd call the sweet spot for anyone thinking about a long-term position. This is the kind of setup that gets me really interested, and I think you should be paying attention too. All right, let's dive into the charts real quick. So I've got this blue zone marked out here. We're talking roughly 58 to about 66.5 cents. And honestly, I think this is going to be the zone where you want to be loading up on Ondo for the long haul. Now, I'll be straight with you. We did just break below some major support. I'm talking about that macro support level on the 3-day time frame, right around 73 cents. But here's the thing. This breakdown is actually putting Ondo right into what I consider prime buying territory. I know what some of you are thinking. Nick, should we be worried about a bear market coming? Look, I get it, but here's my take. I really don't think we're done yet in crypto. We're nowhere near topped out in my opinion. And here's what's really catching my eye. A lot of these altcoins, Ondo included, are just absolutely beaten down right now. I mean, look at this RSI. Check this out. On the 3-day chart, we're already sitting lower than where we were back in June. And if you go all the way back to March and April when everything was oversold, we're hitting those same extreme levels again. The RSI is basically screaming at us right now, saying, hey, these altcoins are oversold. And that's exactly the kind of signal I pay attention to. Now, when we zoom into the shorter timeframes, let's look at the daily chart. This is actually the lowest we've seen Ondo since way back in August 2024. Pretty wild, right? So, to answer the big question that's probably on everyone's mind, am I worried about a bear market? Am I freaking out that these altcoins are completely done for this cycle? Honestly, not even close. Here's what I think is happening, and I feel like a lot of people are completely missing this. Most of this recent bloodbath was driven by liquidations, pure and simple. It was a cascade effect that just steamrolled through the market. And what actually triggered all this chaos? A bunch of noise around trade wars, tariff talks, basically a lot of macro fear that, in my opinion, doesn't really change the fundamentals of what we're doing here in crypto. So yeah, I'm not losing sleep over these altcoins getting hammered. In fact, I'm looking at this as a golden opportunity to scoop up some quality projects on the cheap. And that brings me back to Ondo. Like I've always said, this is one of the blue chips in the space. I mean, I've been saying this for a while now, and you know what really gets me excited about Ondo? It takes me back to why I originally fell in love with some of the crypto projects I'm still holding today. I'm talking XRP, XLM, HBAR. The reason I jumped into those wasn't just because of hype or price action. It was because of the actual technology behind them and the real-world moves these ecosystems were making. And guess what? Ondo hits me the exact same way. This is why I'm calling Ondo a blue chip. This is why I think we're going to see this project get very, very expensive down the road. It's not just speculation, they're actually doing things that matter. And here's the crazy part, we already have the proof. Check this out. Since 2023 started, Ondo's tokenized products have pulled in, get ready for this, $1.8 billion in assets under management. We're talking nearly 30,000 holders here, guys. But here's the kicker. Tokenizing capital markets? We're looking at a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. Not million, not billion, trillion with a T. And Ondo? They're literally building the infrastructure to capture a piece of that massive pie. I mean, when you put it like that, it's pretty clear why I'm so bullish on this project, right? Now, if we hop over to rwa.xyz, and this is where things get really interesting, we can see that $1.8 billion is directly tied to Ondo. And get this, that's a brand new all-time high for their total value. But wait, it gets even better. We're looking at almost 30,000 holders now, and here's the mind-blowing part. That's up 53% just in the last 30 days alone. I mean, think about that for a second. While the market's been going through all this chaos and everyone's panicking, Ondo's user base has grown by more than half in just 1 month. That's not exactly what you'd expect to see from a project that's supposedly done, right? And here's what really blows my mind about Ondo. When you start digging into all the different assets that are tied to their platform, it's absolutely insane. I mean, some of the biggest ones you'll see are stocks. We're talking over $300 million tied directly to stocks alone. And get this, that's up 25% just in the past 30 days. But that's not even the whole picture. Beyond stocks, they've also got stablecoins in the mix, plus US treasuries. I mean, we're looking at a pretty diverse portfolio of real-world assets here. And the growth numbers are just incredible. But here's the thing, Ondo is sitting in an absolutely perfect position right now to cash in big time on this whole tokenization boom that's happening. And trust me, they were early to the party. We're already seeing tokenization explode over the past few weeks. I mean, check this out. We've got $34 billion now sitting on-chain across all networks. Whew. That's some serious money flowing into this space, and Ondo's right there capturing a huge piece of it. And when we're talking specifically about public networks, we're looking at over $21 billion and climbing every single day. I mean, come on, how can you not love seeing numbers like that? It's absolutely incredible. And here's the best part. Ondo is one of the major players leading this entire charge. Now, here's where things get really interesting though. Policy is finally starting to catch up with all of this innovation. So check this out. We've got some breaking news from Ondo that really shows how policy is finally catching up to the technology we've been talking about. Just yesterday, Ondo's head of global regulatory affairs, Peter Curley, was rubbing shoulders with some serious heavy hitters at DC FinTech Week. I'm talking leaders from Chainlink, Coinbase, and even the European Commission. They had this whole panel discussion about how identity, compliance, and infrastructure are going to be absolutely crucial for the future of tokenized markets. And honestly, the takeaways from this are pretty game-changing. Here's what they're saying institutions really need. Rock-solid infrastructure, bulletproof data integrity, seamless cross-chain connectivity, privacy solutions that actually work, and compliance systems that don't slow everything down. But here's where it gets really interesting. There's this massive regulatory shift happening right now. The Trump administration is working overtime to bring crypto activity back to the US. It's like a race between the US and Europe. While Europe got an early head start with MiCA regulations, US companies are now doubling down and refocusing on the American market. And here's the kicker. They're all betting on a permissionless future. Public blockchains have this killer feature that private ones just can't match: inclusion. The consensus is that permissionless blockchains are going to win out. And identity solutions? That's the next big unlock we're all waiting for. And the infrastructure for tokenized markets is being built now. And it's crazy to look at this image alone. Look at this image for a second, and I want you to really focus on the names here. We've got Robinhood, Citi, sitting right next to Circle, Chainlink, and Ondo. Oh, and Intuit's in there too. Guys, these aren't just any companies. We're talking about absolute giants in finance and traditional banking. These are the big boys of TradFi. What's so mind-blowing about this is that we're literally watching the traditional financial world collide with the crypto space. It's like these two completely separate islands are finally building bridges to each other. I mean, think about it. For the longest time, crypto felt like this tiny digital island where only a small group of us were hanging out, you know? It was like we were in our own little world while everyone else just watched from the sidelines. But now, everything's changing fast. We're seeing these massive bridges being built between crypto and traditional finance, and literally every major player is jumping into the space. I mean, how can you not get excited about this? It's absolutely incredible to witness this transformation happening right before our eyes. And the best part? This is all happening because of these major policy shifts and regulatory changes that are finally... So here's something really important that just happened. Ondo recently fired off an open letter to the SEC, and it's all about Nasdaq's proposed rule changes for trading tokenized securities. Now, here's what Ondo's basically saying. Look, tokenization is literally building the financial infrastructure of the future, and as one of the biggest players in real-world asset tokenization, we think you guys need to pump the brakes on this proposal. Why? Well, they're arguing that critical information needs to be made public first. Think about it. How can you create fair market rules when not everyone has access to the same information? Here's their main concern. Nobody really knows how the DTC is going to handle tokenized settlement. And without that crucial piece of the puzzle, how can regulators, market participants, or even us as investors properly figure out if this whole thing is actually going to work? Ondo's take is pretty straightforward. Tokenization is going to revolutionize financial innovation and make finance more accessible to everyone. But it needs to happen through open collaboration and transparent standards, not behind closed doors. So they've basically told the SEC, hey, do your homework first. Get more information before you make any final decisions. And once the DTC's plans are out in the open, Ondo's ready to roll up their sleeves and work with NASDAQ and the entire tokenization industry to help build this next era of tokenized finance. Now, this is huge, guys. Absolutely huge. We're looking at Ondo's open letter here, and this is really the first major step in something much bigger. Listen to this key line. Tokenization is ushering in the next era of financial innovation and access, and should advance through open, collaboration, and transparent standards. Whew. I mean, when you break that down, what they're really saying is that tokenization isn't just some crypto trend. It's literally the next era of how finance is going to work, and we're watching this become the major focus point right now. This isn't happening in some distant future, it's happening now, and Ondo is right at the center of making sure it's done the right way. All the heavy hitters are already on board. NASDAQ, the big banks, you name it. They're all just sitting there, ready to go. But here's the thing. We're all waiting for one crucial piece. Clear rules. That's it. Once we get crypto clarity, it's going to unlock the next massive wave into this space. And when I say massive, I'm talking trillions of dollars flowing in, plus hundreds of millions of new people jumping into crypto for the first time. We're literally on the verge of mass adoption here. And honestly, I don't think most people truly understand just how massive of a game changer regulatory clarity is going to be. It's like the final domino that's going to set everything else in motion. But wait, there's more! We just got another huge update from Ondo, and this one's all about Franklin Templeton. So Franklin Templeton just dropped some research that's basically saying what we've all been thinking. The time for digital assets is now. They're pointing to three massive factors: way broader market access than we've ever had before, institutions jumping in left and right, and regulations that are actually starting to work in our favor. Here's what really caught my attention, though. They're comparing this moment to the early days of the internet. Think about that for a second. They're saying we've got these perfect demographic and technological wins at our back that are going to drive the next massive wave of growth. And here's their big takeaway. The next financial transformation isn't just going to be digital. It's going to be on-chain. And when you really think about what's happening here, it's absolutely mind-blowing. You know what's crazy? Crypto is actually outpacing the internet, and by a lot. I've been talking about this for a while now, but it's worth repeating because the numbers are just insane. We've been seeing reports going all the way back to 2023 that keep highlighting the same thing. Crypto adoption is moving way faster than the internet did in its early days. We're not just keeping up, we're blowing those early internet numbers out of the water. The speed at which we're adding users and the amount of value flowing into crypto compared to where the internet was at this stage, it's not even close. We're talking about a completely different level of growth and adoption here. I mean, guys, we are moving much faster, and it's because of the efficiencies and what crypto has to offer. And of course, yes, it also does include the biggest names out there jumping on the crypto ship. Perfect example, BlackRock. So there was this interview that got highlighted on CNBC recently, and I've got to play it again because what they're saying about Ondo is absolutely incredible. Listen to this. The world's largest asset manager is calling tokenization the next frontier. But here's the kicker. They're saying we're literally just at the beginning of tokenizing all assets. I'm talking real estate, equity, bonds, everything across the board. And get this, they're painting this picture of markets that are way more open, efficient, and accessible than anything we've ever seen before. And guess what? This vision is already becoming reality through Ondo's tokenized US Treasury products, stocks, and ETFs. Here's what really gets me fired up, though. They're not saying the next era of finance is coming someday. They're saying it's already here, right now. Check this out.
I do believe we're just at the beginning of the tokenization of all assets, from real estate to equities, the bonds, across the board. There's $4.1 trillion of money in city globally in digital wallets. A lot of that money is outside the United States. If we could tokenize a ETF, digitize that ETF, we could have investors who are just beginning to, invest in markets through, let's say, crypto. They're investing in it, but now we could get them into the more traditional long-term retirement products. So we look at that as the next wave of opportunity for BlackRock over the next tens of years, as we start moving away from traditional financial assets by repotting them in a digital manner, and then having people stay in that digital ecosystem.
And here's what's really going on behind the scenes. BlackRock isn't just dipping their toes in the water here. They're actively pushing for mass adoption of this technology. They want people to start tapping into these digital opportunities instead of sticking with the same old traditional stuff. And when BlackRock makes a move like this, it's going to trigger mass adoption. We're talking about massive amounts of money flowing on-chain. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Projects like Ondo that have been sitting at the forefront of this revolution, the ones that have been preparing and planning for this exact moment for years, they're about to win big. This is exactly why I keep telling you guys, when the market sells off, when everything's choppy and people are freaking out, that's actually the perfect time to look at projects that are massively undervalued. And I genuinely believe Ondo is one of the most undervalued projects out there right now. Think about it. We're literally watching the biggest transformation of our financial system in decades. These are the exact changes that Ondo has been building for, focusing on, and creating the infrastructure around. And speaking of infrastructure, Ondo just launched global markets recently, and they're absolutely leading the charge here. Which is also why they have a massive amount of money tied back to them we're talking $1.8 billion here. And here's what I love about Ondo. They're not just sitting back and relaxing. They keep innovating, they keep growing, and they keep making smart moves. Perfect example? They just acquired Oasis Pro, which is absolutely huge for accelerating US tokenized securities innovation. This wasn't just any random acquisition either. This move gives Ondo access to a ton of incredible resources and capabilities. Like, for an example, digital asset broker-dealer, ATS and transfer agent licenses, enables Ondo Finance to develop and provide tokenized securities markets in the US. So let me break down why this Oasis Pro deal is such a big deal. When you look at what Oasis Pro brings to the table, there are some really exciting things happening here. For example, Oasis Pro is basically the real deal when it comes to regulatory compliance. We're talking SEC-registered, FINRA member broker-dealer, they've got an alternative trading system, and they're an SEC-registered transfer agent. In simple terms, they have all the official paperwork and infrastructure you need to legally issue and trade tokenized securities right here in the US. So what does this mean for Ondo? They're essentially using this acquisition as their golden ticket to force their way into US markets. It's like they just bought themselves a first-class seat at the table instead of trying to break down the door. And honestly, this is incredibly exciting. We're literally looking at the next chapter of tokenized finance unfolding right before our eyes. So what exactly does Ondo get with this acquisition? They're getting a complete powerhouse, an engine for tokenizing real-world assets, a digital transfer agent, a marketplace for primary offerings, and a multi-asset trading system that handles both public and private tokenized securities. But here's where it gets really wild. They can now use either digital currency or traditional fiat money, and they've got regulatory approval to handle secondary market activities for basically everything you can think of. I'm talking traditional stocks, tokenized equities, corporate debt, REITs, structured products, mortgage-backed securities, asset-backed securities, and even privately placed securities. And if that wasn't enough, they've also got all the licenses they need to support major capital market activities, private placements, underwriting, and even M&A advisory functions. I mean, thoughtful when you put it all together. Ondo just became a one-stop shop for pretty much everything in tokenized finance. So again, this is a strategic acquisition to allow for Ondo to really expand. And just think, right? It's at a time where Ondo just announced global markets, $1.8 billion tied back to Ondo. We're already seeing tokenized securities and stocks on Ondo's platform absolutely explode, We're talking over $300 million and climbing fast. Now just imagine where Ondo is headed with this massive acquisition under their belt, plus all these other incredible moves they've been making. I mean, if they're already hitting these numbers, what's going to happen when they really start flexing with all this new infrastructure? Honestly, I'm beyond excited about what's coming next for this project. This is exactly why I get so confident about loading up on more Ondo whenever we hit these major support levels. You know, those key lows we've seen throughout its history. I genuinely believe the long-term future for this project is going to deliver absolutely massive returns. Why? Because when I look at everything Ondo has going for it, all these partnerships, acquisitions, the regulatory progress, the growing user base, I honestly think this project is ridiculously undervalued right now. We're talking about a project that's positioned perfectly for the future of finance, and the market just hasn't caught up yet. That's the kind of opportunity that can really pay off big time for those of us who see it early. I honestly think this is going to end up being a top 10, maybe even top 15 project. And years from now, people are going to look back and say, man, I can't believe I had the chance to buy Ondo under $1 and I didn't pull the trigger. So, there you have it, guys. I hope you found this breakdown as exciting as I did. If this video helped you see why Ondo could be such a massive opportunity, definitely smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of my free content. Also, if you want to keep the conversation going, come follow me on Twitter and jump into our free Discord. You'll find all the links in the description below. All right, everyone, this has been Nick. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.